Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Source 107.9 Radio Fremantle. This is the second installment of the pre-recorded interviews with Candace Fries. Candace Fries is the president and founder of the organization known as AbundantHope. And for those of you who were able to listen to the previous interview we did with Candace, we covered a large range of topics. We went everywhere and talked about everything that we do like to talk about here on the Source on Radio Fremantle 107.9. However, there's only so many hours in the day, and we weren't able to cover everything we wanted. So Candace has very graciously agreed to come back and try it all again. So we have Candace Fries on the line. Candace, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you so much again for agreeing to appear on the radio show. And it is late there, isn't it? It's getting a little late over there in Denver, Colorado. It's 8:20, 8:30. Am I right?
Yeah.
Oh, my
8:21 specifically, so the computer says.
So the computer says. Thank gosh we got the computer to do our work for us. Okay. So all right, we're gonna get right to it now. Last time we met on Skype, we talked about a whole range of issues. We talked about everything from political events to God, to versions of same, to the planet, and a whole range of things in between. And we kind of scattered here and there and tried to cover a whole range of things. Now, we've been very lucky to have a bit of feedback, and I thought I might start with one or two questions from the questions that we had. Now, what we mentioned was, and we talk a lot about here on Radio Fremantle, on the Source, we talk about the fact that this is the time of great change. We talk about the fact that energetically speaking, and on a whole load of levels, what we're going through right now is literally the, you could say metaphorically, the death and the rebirth of this planet and the people on it. In a way, we call this ascension. Now, would you agree with that? Is that accurate so far?
Yes, reasonably so.
Reasonably so. Well, we had a couple of guests talk about it on their messages to the Source Radio Fremantle email, and they mentioned this thing about the fact that, well, if things are changing and this planet is ascending and the people on it, energetically speaking, are changing, and the bad guys, the ones at the top of the food chain right now who are making, well, you know, the food chain on this planet anyway, making life difficult for everybody else, they're not going to be here anymore. Is that how is that possible for us to make sure? He wants to know how we're going to keep them out of the way. How these people who've been ruling the planet, who've been doing what they're doing for literally thousands of years, are going to be able to be kept either off planet or subdued or not able to do the things they've been doing for such a long time. Can you talk a little bit about how exactly that happens?
They're going to be actually removed and transplanted, sent elsewhere. A lot of them are going to universal courts for official trials. That's how God does judgment. There's courts, there's lawyers,
right?
There's the records of the soul, and that's all looked at. And
so when you say, sorry, you say removed, can I just clarify removed? We're not talking about, are we talking about someone dies? Is that what you mean by removed? Because I'm just trying to, they're actually literally, physically, as we know it, taken off the planet. Is that what you mean?
Yes, they'd be taken off the planet. Some of them are going to have to drop their bodies and go back to their original forms. They're incarnate here using these kind of bodies. They the courts in the higher realms, these bodies, these animal forms that we have here do not function, and so they'll be, let's just say, transferred back into their normal state of being.
Okay,
and then they will face trial.
Now, it was my impression, and this is just my impression, and from some of the research that I did, I was under the impression that the planet itself is going through a vibratory change, and that this vibratory change as well also meant that it took a certain kind of consciousness, it took a certain kind of being operating and functioning on a certain level to remain with a planet that increases in vibration. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay, so I thought as well that might be an aspect of this way in which a celestial hierarchy would also kind of, if you could use the term in a way, a natural selection kind of thing, where only the people who are operating on a certain level at a certain heart space and head space would actually even be able to exist on a vibratory planet of that kind?
If you would take most people on this earth and place them on another planet that is at a higher vibratory level than this one, they, it'd have to have a similar oxygen content, et cetera, in terms of these forms that we use, but they would age and die very quickly. And the higher the planet that they go to, the quicker that process would be. There are some planets which you could only live for a few days on and you would die. Others you might live weeks to months, but the physical body simply would not adapt to that, because the soul and the body are sort of joined at the hip that way in terms of your vibratory rate, and you simply wouldn't survive very long.
I see.
And so, the dark ones, even if we left them here, would not...
they couldn't cope with it.
Very long either.
Right. So they'll literally be removed and face a court system. And this is interesting because, for the majority of people, the laymen out there on planet Earth, with the lack of information, the incredible amount of disinformation and misinformation, for the majority don't have any idea that there would be a celestial hierarchy, number one, which we're going to go into hopefully a little bit today, and also that there would be a court system. Now you're talking about a court system of celestial affairs, shall we call it, where would it function on a similar level to the court system would on this planet? I mean, in the framework of a legal system, is that kind of like
Yes.
what it is like? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, except in the celestial courts, you can't lie very well because everything you've ever done is stored on your soul record and you can't hide it.
Right.
So you can't lie your way out of it. The courts are thorough, they're fair. What people don't realize during their eternal life, whether you be an angel or a human, everybody has careers and has specialties, and there are angels that are quite literally lawyers and judges.
Really?
And panels, yes, and panels of people. And if a being facing the courts at that level has had a guardian angel of some sort, and the guardian angels are called in to testify also.
Oh my gosh.
It's a very thorough process.
It's,
and as I say, there's no hiding. You cannot hide. Your record's written there.
Yeah, it's funny. I have to tell you, imagine the court system on this planet if there was no ability to lie and commit fraud or commit, perjury or whatever, and just, all the facts were there. You just kind of, there would be no need for really too many lawyers, I would imagine, because, the facts would just be there and the judge would make his judgment and that would be it. Is that akin to what people talk about, in biblical terms, people talk about Judgment Day. I'm sure a lot of Catholic Christians who are listening to this program would be aware of, their own version of Judgment Day when we hear about it in the Bible. Is that akin to what you're talking about in terms of celestial courts to make a judgment? Because people talk about this time being, Judgment Day. This is the time of judgment where our souls are judged. Are we literally being judged in a courtroom of sorts?
Some people, yes, they're being observed and the evidence is being collected and the like. There's in these groups that are going before the court system, there's often a whole bunch of them that are all tied together. So the hearings may, as such, involve a large group of individuals, and you have to have the same documentation. I mean, it is written in the soul record, but the beings that are here, these beings, some of them are from the Lucifer rebellion. They've played together, and their interactions have to be considered. And in the case of judgment, there's always options. Once the trial is gone, there are, on Earth we have to decide, whether they're going to go to an actual jail, whether they're going to die from their crimes, whether they're going to be on probation. And these things also exist in the heavenly courts. You can go on a probation and you can take some journeys, usually by incarnation, but not always, where you come to know why your decisions and the things that you didn't work. And
Candace, did you say you can die? You can be sentenced to death. Can you be sentenced to death in a celestial court?
yes, and the death in that case, it's death of the soul. However, the person has to agree to it. In other words,
Like a
you'll be
contract, like they
yeah,
use,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, you are not ever it's called uncreation. You are not ever uncreated without your permission.
Wow.
And so you have to agree to it, or you have to agree to some sort of other penalties and learning.
In the case of Lucifer, now Lucifer is a biblical feature. I mean, a lot of people would have heard of this. A lot of people would associate this name with Satan, the adversary, I believe is the correct translation of that word. Lucifer, what happened to him? Did he face celestial courts?
Oh yes, and he chose his uncreation. He is no more.
Okay,
And
so Lucifer was 100% real.
yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
Lucifer was real in the sense that we understand through the Bible, Lucifer?
No.
No. Okay. Can you maybe extrapolate a little bit about this guy, because this guy's features pretty heavily in definitely the Christian religion, the Catholic religion, and a few others variations of same. Who was this guy, and where did he come from?
Well, when we get to celestial hierarchy, and I break that down, it might be come up. But he was hierarchy. He just like we have counties and cities and states that we group into into government organizations on
Uh-huh.
this world. It's done that way, throughout the creation. And your basic unit of government is called a system. And this is not a solar system like a sun with planets. This is a system in which up to 1,000 planets similar to Earth are governed. And in our particular system, the number is over 600 at the moment and would eventually become roughly 1,000, just depending on the world, the numbers of worlds developed. But he was the leader of our system. And he and some others decided they didn't want to be part of the celestial ranks anymore, and they wanted to do their own thing. Just like in my country during the Civil War, the South seceded from the Union of my country, and this happens all over this world periodically in history. That's what he and his followers did. They said, we're not going to be under you anymore, and we're going to do our own thing. We don't like.
Hello,
Did
Ken.
you? I got muted.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you're back. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I hit a button accidentally on
Okay,
my.
no problem. Go
All
right
right,
ahead.
but anyway, he and his group said that we're going to do things our own way, and they separated it. Lucifer had this idea actually that there should never be any courts, and that there should never be any crimes, and that if man was allowed to do anything he wanted, the ultra free will, that man would grow up, and his theory didn't work.
Okay. So okay, we're gonna back it up a little bit. So Lucifer, the one that most of us know about, at least in the Christian Catholic religion, was part of this hierarchy. He was pretty high up. Is that right? He was pretty high up,
Yeah.
and he said, you know what? I don't think the way this system of universal government working is working, and I'm going to secede, as you mentioned, as a county or a state might do from a union. And he said, I'm going to give man free will, complete and utter free will, because I think that's the best way to run a system. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay,
that was a lot of it, but there was more. But that's the most important details.
okay,
Anyway.
so he was allowed to do that.
Yes,
Who allowed him to do that?
Michael of Nebadon, the big head of our particular sector.
Okay, so this Michael of Nebadon, I believe, is the one you refer to as this particular universe. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And the universe is a large sector at the creation. The creation evolves, and there's always new suns and new nebulas and new all of this, that, and the other. And when there's enough new being formed, they organize it into an area that's governed under celestial guidance in
Okay.
one way or another.
Okay, so he
So
was given right to do this. This is an interesting story. I'd like to follow this further. So he was given the right by Michael of Nebadon to do this thing that he considered to be a better way, and th- that's legal for him to just. I mean, Michael of Nebadon giving up a section of his all authority to some guy who had a who says he had a better idea. Is this a common event in the
uh,
universe?
I would say no. I think it was somewhat related to plans that Michael had for this is, as a training world. I think he allowed it for everybody to watch it and see what happened and learned why it wasn't going to work. He always knew it wouldn't work. A large number of more advanced souls came here. This rebellion was roughly 200,000 years ago in Earth time. And a lot of folks came here to watch it and study it and be within it. And I think he simply allowed it for the learning experience. It could have been put down, but it was not, because it was felt to be beneficial to observe the process, and might be useful because of whatever outcome happened, in the future,
Okay.
considering other places and how things are done.
So Lucifer, this celestial member, well, I guess former member of the celestial hierarchy now, he was given reign to carry on and try to do what he said he could do and attempt to do, and it didn't work.
And it didn't work.
Okay, why didn't it work? And what has that got to do with us? And why is he in our Bible?
Well, I don't know how he got into the Bible in actuality, but one of the biggest reasons it didn't work to begin with, man did not grow up. It very greatly slowed the progress in the sector that he was responsible for. Now, let me briefly say that he was responsible for the administration of over 600 planets. But
Is
in
that a
terms
big amount of planets in terms of a
of,
structure of a system? Is that a lot of responsibility? 600?
oh, yeah, sure. And there's lots of people that share in the responsibility, but only about 36 of the planets, each planet has celestial heads also. You might call them presidents or princes. They're called princes, I guess we'll use that word. There is mention in the Bible of the prince of this world, and the prince of this world joined the Lucifer rebellion. And a number of other celestials on this world also joined it. But there was I believe 36 planets, including Earth, in which their celestial hierarchy of the planet, the princes, went into the rebellion. The princes and numerous other celestial beings that manage planets all joined in that. So it didn't involve all 600 and some planets, just 36 of them.
Is this what they refer to as the war in heaven? There's a lot of
Oh,
prophecy and biblical talk about this war in heaven that's ongoing. Is that what they refer to in the war of heaven?
yeah, yes, specifically to this particular war at the time. There have been other wars in heaven. This has not been the only one, but Earth was involved in this particular one, so it's personal to those of us here.
When you talk about war, is it a war in which we would imagine a war with guns and shooting and people dying or beings dying? I mean, like Star Wars. I don't know.
No, not like Star Wars. It's more a war in a legal sense, I guess.
Like a legal battle, a court battle in terms
Yeah, a
of.
legal court battle, and people refusing to serve under, the prior management and so on and so forth. But it's not a battle with weapons. There
Okay.
has been some of that going on between planets, and and Earth also has a unique history that way, because we have been also involved in real planetary wars. But the Lucifer rebellion itself is not a planetary war with weapons.
Okay, so all right, I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear on this. So the guy secedes from the Union. He takes a bunch of people who agree with him, and they are given free reign by Michael, who could have put it down, who's the sovereign of the system or the entire universe. He lets it happen because he said, you know what? I know it's not going to work, but this is a great experiment, and we can learn a lot, and people can see why this thing won't work. So he gets to do what he likes. He gives the people under his command, this is Lucifer, gives his people free will, and it doesn't work. Is this experiment still ongoing, and is Earth still a member of this experiment?
Uh, no, it's pretty much wound up now. It's pretty much ended. It's been, yeah, no, in terms of legal terms, the Lucifer Rebellion is now fully adjudicated.
Oh, yeah, it's done. They're done.
Yeah, it's done. Yeah, and we just finished the rest of the adjudication in Earth. We put a little small message on the website the other day that says
This
their
is
fates are sealed.
Yeah, this
Yes,
is
the
AbundantHope.net, right?
Yes, and there's a little message that says, to the Dark Brothers, your fates are sealed. That was a reference to the fact that it's fully,
Done. It's over.
done. Yeah, on this planet.
Okay, all right. So this is 200,000 years ago, some such was when the rebellion started. Was that right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's been going on 200,000 years, and the planets under the direction of Lucifer. Has it been okay? This is the same kind of deal going on Earth. There's a whole bunch of planets like Earth who are going through this experiment even now.
Yes, but the worst of the planets was Earth, because Lucifer himself was actually
Imprisoned here.
allowed, imprisoned here, allowed to have this. He was more involved with this planet and imprisoned here.
Why this planet?
Yes,
Why us? What did we do to deserve the worst of the worst?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question, and I don't have a full answer. In part, it's because this is a seed planet, and it's a planet for totally developing new souls. The creation ever goes forward, and you have to create new souls. It's just that simple. It's not, complex in that regard. And you simply need more to occupy the creation.
Okay.
Angels are created and hierarchy created as necessary as the whole thing grows. We just all grow together.
Yeah. Okay.
So organic mind, which is living mind with living beings, the computers can be made to think, which is why I'm calling it organic mind versus having artificial intelligence. Some people familiar on Earth with the term artificial intelligence, grows really slowly. It must be challenged. If it's not challenged, it's lazy and it goes nowhere. As a small example of that, on this planet right now, the apes and monkeys living around the equator where the weather's warm, there's no challenge there, so they aren't growing.
Okay.
They're very happy to eat fruits and pick bugs off of each other and groom each other and hug and kiss, but they aren't growing.
Right. Okay. So okay. So all right. Come back with me now, because I want to know more about this thing here. So Earth, you're not sure particularly, but it could be a seed planet. The seed planet is where they grow. That is where they grow souls. This is like a plant. Like there's soul plants, or what? How do they grow plants?
The soul period, to begin with, you do have to put plants on a planet of this sort. Or most seed planets are going to be very similar to Earth in terms of the atmosphere, the oceans, and so on and so forth. And so plants are started first. But the point, organic mind evolution takes a very, very long time. The purpose behind a seed planet is that you create new life on that planet, and then you can move it to other new planets and greatly shorten the process.
Okay. So
okay,
Earth...
so you don't start every new planet with new souls. You start it on every several planets, and then you can move to other planets. And with the ascension, actually around 1,000 years or so from now, man will be much more perfected on this planet, and then he will be allowed to move and seed other planets.
Okay, all right.
So essence, his own kids, his own whatever, but right now he's confined to this planet until soul maturity is reached.
Okay, so the Earth was a seed planet, and Lucifer was confined here for whatever reason, and but Earth is the worst. Earth is or was the worst of the rebellion. Is that right?
Yeah, and the thing Earth has been particular, besides the rebellion, this is a beautiful planet, and there were beings from Orion and other areas more or less nearby to here in this vicinity that that wanted the planet. It's an unusually gorgeous planet in and of itself, not considering anything else. And so there's been a little bit of galactic warring for the ownership of the planet, and this has been allowed because it will produce soul growth. The problem, one of the reasons we have a lot of reincarnation here, and we'll touch on reincarnation later, but Lucifer could not create new souls. He could not ensoul people. And I know that's a difficult concept, but if you're going to, he thought he could. He thought he could. That was one of the big failures. He found out otherwise. And so if you cannot create new soul or new mind, let's call the soul mind right now.
Okay.
If you cannot create new living mind, you sort of have a dead end.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons we have more reincarnation than is customary on this planet, because he could create no new beings. He could create no angels to help him, for example. All the angels that came here were ones that entered into the rebellion, but he could create no more celestials to aid him.
I see.
In his thing, and no new people either, for that matter. He does not have. He wasn't a creator. He's an administrator. These sons administrate, but they are not creators, and there's a huge difference there. And he could not create. He could only administer.
Okay, so now I'm going to bring back to this rebellion a little bit more. This rebellion that went on was not a success. It is. So at what point, if you know the answer to this question, what point did the celestial hierarchy, the ones who are actually, in control of the situation, say, that's it, enough is enough, it's not working, we need to pull this one back into the fold?
I'm not really sure in terms of all the planets. I would say with Earth specifically about 40,000 years or so ago, probably.
So I mean, when you say they made a decision, they said that's enough, enough's enough. We're gonna bring this to an end. I mean, because I'm still thinking, Earth time here. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. These guys make a decision. I guess these celestials, they don't really die, do they? They go on forever. They
go on forever unless they blow it off like Lucifer did.
Because I'm trying to figure, you say they make a decision 40,000 years ago, and then we're still here, and it would appear to us that it's still going on. But so they make a decision, and then they proceed with court proceedings, and they say, we're going to legally and officially take back the seceded, planets, states, whatever. And this process has been taking that long, 40,000 years.
Yeah, at least on this world. I'm not sure what's been involved with the other worlds because the situations varied some. But
no, that's fine.
Yeah, this was the more important world because the decision was made to put Lucifer and his cronies, a lot of them, on this planet. And
has Lucifer been on trial for 40,000 years?
I don't know if it's on trial, but being watched at any rate.
Okay.
There's some good questions there. If you want to keep note of some of this, maybe I can.
We'll do that. I'll do that.
Answers at some future date. But they did decide to go ahead with the Adam and Eve mission, which was 38,000 years ago. It was 40,000 years ago that Michael of Nebadon made the decision to come to the planet personally as his
bestowal.
Yeah, as his bestowal, which a lot of people are not going to understand, yet at this point. But so we'll just leave it that he decided he was going to come personally.
Okay, so this, and Lucifer, you said he's chosen on creation?
Yes.
When did he choose that? Was it recently or 40,000 years ago?
25 years ago.
25 years. So 30, he's been watched.
25 years ago, back in 2005, so about 30 years or so now.
Oh, okay, so about 30 years. I'm being really thing here with dates, but no, I just so he chose on he was given the option. Did they give him an option? They say, look, buddy, you've had your time. You've had a good couple of 100,000 years to make it work. It's not working. gig is up, time to come back into the fold? Did they give him the option to,
Oh,
come back
sure.
in?
Yes, he was given the option to come back. You're always given that option.
So they were going to forgive what he did, and getting out there and
Well,
say you.
he'd have to take an extensive journey to understand. Although I am pretty certain by that point he was having, a fairly good understanding of why it wasn't working or that it didn't work. But I'm told that he stuck in a sense of pride to the very end, some sort of strange sense of pride, and that basically at the end it was still his way or the high.
Yeah, his way or the highway. He still
Yeah.
had enough, but after 200,000 years of trying to make something work and it not working, you would imagine that even someone as, let's say prideful as someone like this Lucifer guy would say, maybe it's not working. You'd think that, right?
Yeah, you'd think that, but as we're discovering, even as we watch events on the earth now, there's some people that never learn. What can
Okay.
you, that's the only place I can go on it.
It
But
strikes
I
me as
find it
well that
incomprehensible, but it exists. There are people that simply will not
learn.
learn or
Yeah,
grow up.
I can definitely agree with that. When you see people's patterns of behavior sometimes, you've never seen anything quite so accurate as someone banging their head against a brick wall,
Oh,
expecting a different outcome than a headache, but it just
yeah,
doesn't.
as they say, the insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results.
Well, after what you tell me, Candace, this rebellion. So this rebellion seems to be a pretty important event then in the celestial calendar. This seems to be pretty big time that whatever Earth is involved in. This is pretty huge, and well, I would imagine 99.9999% of people have no idea, what you're talking about. I'll give you that much. But this
Yeah,
is this is
yeah,
pretty
people don't
huge.
get hierarchy and management, but how else can the creation function? It's not an accident, and
No, no.
if there was no hierarchy and no watch care of it, I don't think the creation could actually exist at this point. Of it would have turned itself into a big black hole somehow.
Yeah,
Something.
yeah,
It would have.
and
There we go. Would have collapsed.
it strikes me as well, just hearing what you're talking about. If some guy, some really high up being in a celestial hierarchy of the universe of universes gets to do this thing and as a whole bunch of administration folks and etc. follow him, he must have been something special.
Well, he was considered of the type. There's different kinds of celestial beings created for different kinds of jobs, and this particular type of celestial, he was unusually brilliant.
He must have been, to have so many people say, you know what, I think this guy's right. I mean, over the actual celestial, guys who run the joint, they choose to follow this Lucifer guy. He must have been pretty charismatic.
Yeah, that's where the story in the Bible comes from that a third of the stars fell. At least, in the system that I don't know if the third of the stars in that refers just to the celestials operating on this planet since he was put here, or if it averaged out to be a third of all of them on those 35 other planets too. I'm
Yeah.
not totally clear on that, but a substantial number did go with him. Yes, quite a few. A third's a substantial number.
And they
No
all
matter
get an
where you
option to come
go,
back into the fold?
huh? Oh yeah, some of them did. Yes,
So,
yes.
so, so
But
they all get the same choice he did. That's it. The gig is up. You better, grab
yeah.
your thinking hat and come back on over, or they too could choose on creation.
Yeah, they could choose on creation. There's you always have to do a penance of sorts. I don't know if we would call it a
Jail
penance.
time, or is that
Yeah,
what you?
yeah, some version of jail time. But in our jails, we often throw people in them, lock the key, and walk away. In a sense, we don't do any rehabilitation. In the celestial realms, rehabilitation is offered, and it's often very strenuous. But you cannot have managers that have big holes in their knowledge or their understanding. And so there are opportunities for, in terms of the rehabilitation offered would be things that would allow them to fill in their holes of ignorance.
Yeah, and I would imagine as but I can imagine in my small limited mind that even to imagine a guy like Lucifer imagining that above and beyond the skill and wisdom and knowledge of a hierarchy that has been running the universe of universes since infinity, he knew better. He had a better idea, even though everything was working, everything was, working like clockwork, let's say. He said, you know what, that's not right. I know better than you guys know. I've been running this place a lot longer, and God damn it, I'm gonna run my own universe, and I'm gonna do things my own way, and I'll show you. That's pretty gutsy. That's pretty, prideful ego right there to just stand up and say this
It
thing.
is, but understand that people have this idea that heaven is some bliss somewhere. I've never figured it out. What we think it is here, but man becomes like the angels in terms of his own training. Angels are created for management positions, teaching positions, medical positions, all kinds of positions, and they have free will also. And Michael of Nebadon, Christ Michael, told me once that because they saw problems coming in the future in the creation from a variety of issues going on, and plus it's sometime the ascendants like me are going to be running the newer creations, and we need the experience that I sort of lost my track. But anyway, that was part of what's behind this planet. A lot of us are here to confront the worst of the worst that can happen. But these beings all still have free will. If you can think, you've got free will. That's the difference between you and your cat,
Oh,
or
okay.
your dog. Okay. Free will is the ability to reason. And at any time you have free will beings, whether you call them in heaven or on planets, you're going to butt heads now and then. And butting heads happens in the heavenly realms too. But when I discuss the hierarchy, there's different levels, and above a certain point, you never get headbutting that produces rebellions.
So is the so basically this whole rebellion thing that, encompassed such a grand swath of the universe, in particular this one, was about free will? That's what it was about, free will?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to do some more study at some point of Lucifer and his head, and that will be
It's
available
9 o'clock.
to us on Earth. I probably did some study of that before I came, as a matter of fact, on my own thing here, to see what it was. There's a whole university in heaven devoted to studying this, okay?
Yeah, I can imagine.
And the records will be, after the Earth changes, as man grows up, he's going to be able to review those records, even here on this planet. It's part
Yeah.
of the records of our planet. We'll be able to look at it
I,
and
I think
study
that's a
it and sit around and have discussion groups and all of that.
I think that is a fantastic topic as well. We need to broach free will exactly as well, what free will is. But I'm gonna, if I can, continue this train of thought for another maybe 12, 13 more minutes, and then maybe we could take a break or something. See how you go, Candace. Is that okay? We'll keep
Sure.
going. Yeah. Okay. So can we bring it back to this, beautiful blue green orb that we're living on Earth now? So you're saying the rebellion has been put down, the documents have been filed and received by the celestial courts. The rebellion's officially over. Lucifer's chosen on creation. That in as much has been sorted. So where does that leave little old Earth? Are they gonna come and administer to this planet and the people on it? Because I
Oh,
think
yes.
I think we've been a little bit hard done by. I mean, this is just my opinion, but I kind of feel a little bit like a guinea pig hearing this thing. Imagining an entire hierarchy of celestials watching. These little guinea pigs running around and taking notes. I kind of feel a little bit, like they put us in a tough spot. So are they going to come and help us out as well?
Yes, there's, however, a lot of us help is already incarnate here, and two of us are talking, but we'll move beyond that.
Yeah, let's move
You aren't
beyond.
as victimized as you might think you might be, but you came here and said, I want to look.
Uh,
But yes, we're in something called the correcting time, and the correcting time is for all the planets, but uniquely to each planet with its particular issues.
Correcting
And
time.
correcting time. That means we're going to play catch up.
I see. So has that got anything to do with what they talk about? The the Bible thing, the apocalypse, the end of days, the judgment day. Is that correcting time? Is that a different wording for what they talk about?
The correcting time is simply about catching up for all the apparent lost time that the planet's experienced. It's going to be gifted with a lot of technology it doesn't have. It's going to be gifted with a lot of leadership and instruction that it hasn't had. People will be able to make up what they think they may have lost.
Yeah.
From being here. It's to correct all the muck that happened.
Okay, and this might be a good idea to tie in one of the questions I forward to you. One of the listeners forwarded to me. This 2012 date, is there an end time? Is there an end time? And I mean, so we're not all going to die. The whole world's not going to blow up, or everyone turns into ghosts and ghouls, and I don't know, goes to hell. Is there? There's not a specific. You're laughing at me, but for a lot of people, this stuff is serious. They believe this stuff. So I need you to clarify. Is 2012 it? Is that the end? Is that?
I don't know for sure. I think so. 2011 was supposed to be the end, and
what do you mean it was supposed to be the end? These celestial guys have an end date, or they don't have an end date?
Well, end dates are flexible according to the conditions, and
oh man, really?
It was going to end December 31st, and then the highest
2011.
Yes, the highest ranking celestial put on the brakes and gave 3 more months.
Oh, man.
And I don't know if there's going to be any more time. 3 more months would be the end of March, but I've got a suspicion it's not the end of March. I'm just really getting that feeling that there's going to be a little bit more time. The thing that we really want so badly to do is get on global TV, and as part of that correcting time, update people a little bit about the nature of the cosmos and what's going on planet Earth.
Okay, all right.
Because the ideas are all over the place, but no,
we're not all going to die. The planet's not going to blow up. Can you clarify that, please?
The planet is not going to be blowing up. The planet is also going to be rehabilitated because it's a mess. Not only the people, but there is a sorting, as we mentioned, vibrations. Some people do have to move. They're not ready. They're simply not ready. Nor can the planet handle this number of beings. So the sorting has been going on actually for about 40 or 50 years now. That people are being sorted to reincarnate here or move when they pass their bodies. But that's, all pretty much predetermined now for everybody still walking it. We've got this, it's like, we have in this country and probably in other countries, you have little schoolrooms and they're one-room schoolrooms, and you have first graders and college students all together in the same room.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of like what the planet's like, and that's not going to work anymore. It's like there's too many people in that room. It's stuffed to the hilt, and there has to be a sorting and a creation of more grades and putting people where they're at, so that you don't have, students that are studying calculus and science,
This is like a classroom. Is this like a classroom?
It's a classroom. Yes, the planet's a classroom. All planets technically are classrooms because learning never stops. There's always a new agenda, a moving forward in the learning on any planet, and that doesn't matter whether it's a planet like Earth or it's a planet of heaven. Everything is planets. You don't float around in cold space in heaven. Heaven isn't out there up in the clouds. Every being, whether you're a spirit being or a physical being, lives on something that's round, that has an atmosphere, etc. Well, usually there's an atmosphere. They can develop life on planets that don't have atmospheres, but, generally speaking, everybody, irregardless of where you are or what you are, lives on round places.
Okay. Well, you know what?
Spheres, planets, whatever you want to call them.
All right. You know what? I think this is as good a time as any, Candace. We're gonna take a quick break, if that's all right. We're gonna round up Act One of interview number two here with Candace Fries. We're gonna take some limber time and some gulps of water, and we'll be right back. Candace, is that okay with you?
Yeah, yeah, I could. I'm rocking here, and I
Okay.
like the chair like crazy. I'm needing to move a little bit.
All right. All right.
Okay.
We'll be back in a
Oh,
very, very short while, everybody. Don't go away. Okay, folks, this is Benjamin with the Source 107.9 FM Radio Fremantle, the second part of the second pre-recorded interview with our special guest tonight, Candace Fries, the president and founder of Abundant Hope. Candace, you still with me?
oh yes, I'm with you.
Great. We've just had a limber and a stretch and a gulp of water, and we're gonna press on with the second half now. So we just covered a fascinating topic, and I think one that has much more relevance to everyone here on this planet than anyone would really realize. The Lucifer Rebellion and what exactly happened there. A celestial guy took control of a series of planets in his system and decided to exert his influence with the go-ahead from the celestial hierarchy on this topic of free will, saying that everyone should be able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and that will evolve the organic mind to where it needs to go. Didn't work. Lucifer uncreated himself. He got hauled into court. Said you have a choice to come back to the fold, or you can be uncreated. And it seems to me this prideful guy decided to, take the easy out. To be honest with you, because he decided he didn't like what anyone else had to say. So we're gonna move on, if I can, Candace, because I want to draw the parallels here. You've mentioned that we're going into correcting time. You've mentioned that we're now currently seeing the end of that rebellion. It is formally closed. The papers have been handed in. The celestial hierarchy have taken back all the rights and privilege to their planet and their systems and these things. And you've clarified that there's no particular time. 2012 necessarily is not going to be, there's not a date, there's not a time, there's not an exact moment that we can identify that this, yeah, I can't say end time because there's no end time, is it? It's just a transition, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Candace?
transition. There'll be a break. The Earth absolutely has to go through her Earth changes, and nothing would survive that on the planet. They're going to be rather extreme. No animal. The air will not be breathable by animals, and not even by the plants. There's just going to be too much volcanism.
Right.
And the huge waves, salt water everywhere, lots of things of this sort. And so the planet has to be evacuated, or life has to be put into something we call stasis. And stasis is a pausing. All life is energy. That energy can be paused, and during the period of time that it's paused, it will not be affected by the earth changes. And then when things are calmed down again, it can be unpaused in stages, and normally this is a process that would take a bit of time in terms of the natural cleanup, and we have millions of craft here with huge technology, and the cleanup's going to go really fast. And so instead of a couple thousand years or more down the road, we estimate 5 to 15 years.
Okay, so we talk about this a lot on this radio program. A lot of the things we talk about here on the Source are to do with the geophysical changes. Now, this planet, I mean, we just had actually a couple of days ago, Candace. I don't know if you saw it anywhere on the net, but we had it was originally a 6.1 on the Richter scale, an earthquake in South Australia, in the middle of the continent. These things really do not happen. A big one, and people are not paying so much attention, but I definitely am, and we do on the program. And there's a lot of geophysical activity. Now, these are symptoms of the planet changing. I mean, you can't deny it, but what's going on, the flooding, the earthquakes, the volcanic activity, it's everywhere. It's all the time now. It's become so much so that I would even go so far as to say people are desensitized to it because it's becoming the norm. These are symptoms of the changes you're talking about?
Yes, I think, so, and we've had, I know here in the last year or two, you had a huge amount of flooding in the
It's again,
northwest,
Candace.
not
It's right
eastern.
now. It's going on still. It's
Is
happening
it the
right now.
same area in the northeast there?
Same area, same
Yeah,
time.
I
Basically,
on
it's like
Mississippi
clockwork.
rivers. Yeah, we're getting so much rain, and they're not covering it on TV hardly at all. Right now, in the middle, in our Midwest area along the Mississippi, and I think we're going to have a ton of flooding there again. A
What
ton
is
of.
that, Candace? What is going on? What is that? What does that mean? What is the planet changing? Is it shifting its tectonic plates? Is it growing? Is it what is going on?
Um, all of it. A lot of the weather is the energetic changes from being in these cosmic energies that I assume I talked about last time.
You did briefly
Yeah,
mention this photon,
yeah.
proton
Some of
belt, right?
the photon belt and the heating at the core, the wave energies that have been coming I guess it's about every 3 or 4 months. I'm not sure exactly over the last 3 or 4 years now. These are high energy, primarily high energy electrons, and as these come in and through each time, that greatly also energizes, the air and the matter, and think adding tons of lightning, only it doesn't look like lightning to it, but it all has some effect on the weather. The Gulf oil thing was thought to affect not the jet stream, but some other energy stream that goes through the oceans, and that may be why
The Gulf,
Europe's
isn't it the current, the Gulf current? What is it? That
yeah,
one that travels all the way around the top.
yeah. I forget. I guess it's called. We'll just call it the Gulf Current because I
Yeah.
forget what it's named. But it does travel up our coast over towards England and down around Africa, I guess.
And that makes
And
some huge
on
effects on
over.
the
Yeah,
planet.
yeah, yeah. It's a literal river in the ocean, and it has a lot to do with the climate. Any
Right.
planet is complex, particularly a planet of this sort. The convection systems, call it a
Yeah.
convection
Yeah.
system of both water and air, and there's convection systems in the going on in the volcanoes that are changing.
Uh-huh. But
In
but
this,
what is happening? I mean, this planet, is it expanding? Is it shifting its plates? Is there water? Is there land rising? People suggest,
all of
these
it.
these Atlantis, these ancient civilization that sank are rising. Is that correct? Is there
Yeah, I don't think they're moving some, but I think the actual arising will take place even more once we really get into the Earth changes. We're expecting I think it's 20-degree axis shift and then the magnetic reversal. These are going to cause dramatic changes in which mountains can form in the matter of hours or days.
And we've talked as well on this show as well, Candace, about the pole shift, the axis shift, the magnetic reversal, the way in which it's quite measurable, dramatically measurable, the way in which the shift has been going on, and even to the extent where airports are changing their runway directions. There's definitely something going on there, and so these are all aspects of this great changes you're talking about.
Some of that with the airports and things like that, we actually have had small gradual axis shifting in which we get this is not the same thing as the energetic north and south poles. This is the axis being a rod through the earth.
The
That's
pivot
actually
point, yeah, yeah.
the pivot point that the earth turns around, and we had nearly 4 degrees of axis shift. An axis shift produces a new equator.
Okay.
And we had nearly 4 degrees of that over a period of 6 months to a year. And I haven't done some inquiring, but when equinox came around this year, we got a new equator again.
Oh yeah?
And I have to do some question asking about it because it's moved back a little bit north. Before the movement that I saw, you can tell when equinox is where you live because when the sun comes up in the morning, it'll cast a straight shadow with anything that's straight up and down. And equinox has been late for a long time, and this year it was about 2 weeks early.
Okay.
And that point east that I watch when I go out and stand in the street in the morning has changed. The point of equinox last September was at least 2 or 3 degrees, maybe more south of where it had been
That's pretty
before.
huge.
Yeah, and now it's moved back a little north again. I think it was almost a tiny bit further north than what I noticed it was 3 years ago when I began to watch that more.
I have a
So
yeah.
our axis itself is doing something strange, and I do have to ask some questions about that. I've meant to, but I forgot.
I have a question as well about that. You know, the changes that are going on are quite dramatic. There has been a lot of dramatic movement going on, and I think people are sensing that there's something going on. Are these changes going to become more dramatic? And if they are going to become more dramatic, do you have any idea when that might happen?
The when's going to happen after the celestials put the planet to stasis, and they've been preventing it all this time, and they're going to hit it with a big whammy then.
Oh, okay. So they're kind of holding off
Yeah,
on the changes.
the magnetic reversal, to my understanding, will be done first because it's special. The magnetic reversal, with that, the planet stops rotating and then it begins to rotate again, but in the opposite direction. So after one of these, the sun will come up in the west.
So, okay, is that what they're talking about when they mention in the biblical text, the 3 days of darkness? Is that what they're talking
Uh,
about?
yes and no. There's various reasons, but three days of darkness, there is some during that, but why the planet's still and it's not rotating, half the planet is going to be fried during those 3 days and the other half is going to freeze.
Yeah.
And the lighted side, as you could see on that, although there's an electromagnetic change that may change the level of the light, but during that time when it's still, all the negative beings, there are negative beings that are not free will minded beings, and a lot of them are thought forms. This planet's had so many ugly wars and so many ugly things, and people don't realize that their thoughts actually create beings of sorts. They're not thinking rational beings, but they have a life to them in a sense, and all of these come off
Are
the
they
planet.
embodied? Are
No,
they
they can't embody. No, they're
thought forms?
yeah, they're thought forms, and it's hard to know how to describe those.
Yeah, I think you've done pretty well,
If
but
I
they're
was silly about it, our little quote boxes that we write things in cartoons, etc.
yeah.
Think of thought form as a little quote box. I don't
Okay.
know where else to go with
So
that.
the planet
But
will
it exists. It's a program. Okay, it's a program. Everything that you create creates a program.
okay.
You might think of the thought forms as being kind of like viruses that they create on computers that are destructive.
Yeah.
A
So
little
they
bit
get
that.
thrown off the planet.
Yeah, and destroyed, and also a lot of other negative beings that are not human free will thinking beings, but exist nevertheless in the life forms. Anyway, all of that stuff goes bye bye.
It's 9:30.
And then the planet, then began turning as the internal pumps work. It turns the opposite direction, and the sun would come up in the west. The other reason for 3 days of darkness is that they can simply put a large craft between us and the sun and make it rather dark and do something similar to an EMP burst, which would turn off all our electricity and our satellites and everything. That is done on some planets, yes, and they go in and clean up.
Oh.
And that's why the Christians believe that you better stay in your house and light candles and pray to God then.
Yeah, well, I
I
imagine
don't
that's a
think
pretty
we're
good
going
idea.
to do that. Yeah, I don't think this planet's ready for that. I think we're just going to go into the stasis and do any necessary cleanup when everybody's not aware of what's going on.
Okay.
And people will be sorted during that time, picked up. Because there's a lot of people that are sitting here telling me, you are not going to take me off the planet. I have my free will and I'm staying here come blank, 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 blank.
Yeah.
Okay, high water.
Yeah, yeah.
Expression anyway.
Yeah.
And they simply will not, their physical form will not be able to survive it. It simply won't. There are people like me that are incarnate. We can just, I can just drop my body and leave,
Okay.
but not everybody has that capability.
I haven't tried it lately, but maybe I could.
Yeah, let's just put it this way. Nobody's going to be left behind. Nobody.
Okay. So this is
Okay.
a regular thing, like you mentioned, they might drop a ship in and do an EMP burst or whatever similar, and da da da. Like this type of evacuations or planetary changes of this kind happen frequently, do they?
Yeah, pretty on these lower planets regularly. They get themselves into trouble constantly, and you have to go in and clean up.
So
And
literally,
it's
they're
hard to
like being
breathe.
babysat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And this always happens every time we go through the photon belt, which is roughly every 13,000 years. And if the planetary civilization is not growing up, if the planetary civilization is matured, they go through the photon belt just fine. And under the guidance of the celestials, et cetera, which we have not had at any time that we've gone through the photon belt in a very long time now,
Yeah.
because there's been no regular celestial guidance on the planet. Lucifer's, I just wouldn't even label it celestial guidance after, some
Right.
point. Yeah,
So
but
if these changes occur,
it sure,
well, when these changes occur and this evacuation with the help of the celestial hierarchy takes place, I'm just running it through my mind here. I don't think you're gonna have a lot of takers. What I mean is, if a bunch of people turn up from outer space in ships, maybe looking a little different, maybe looking a little strange, I I don't think people are gonna buy it. I think people are gonna be scared. I mean, all the movies on the television and these things painting, aliens with, slobbering jaws of teeth want to suck out our brains and do different things. I mean, that alone is gonna turn a lot of people off meeting anyone from outer space. So is that where the stasis thing comes in? They
yeah,
freeze
Stacy,
they freeze people and then they go ahead and do what they need to do, or do
yeah.
we get to meet these people first?
Um, uh, I don't know if we're going to get to meet them before we do the stasis
Oh
or not.
man, come on, Candace.
We had planned on a lovely 6 month event, and time's growing shorter, but this was the goal. It's been set up. If we can get to any of this, where there'll be email contact with the crafts, there'll be multiple landings. There's been multiple films already made. There would be live TV camera coverage inside craft and broadcast across your TV system.
I don't
A lot
want
of
email,
landing. You
Candace.
can
I
go
want to
and
meet them.
visit and go up and down, but I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think we have enough time.
Aw, that sucks. I
Yeah, it
want.
does.
I want
It
to.
bothers me a lot because this is, we would like to do this. We're still hoping to get on TV for a short time, but I don't think we're going to get the 6 month party.
Okay,
And
well,
that
that
would be
sucks.
so ideal because under that, we would be giving people, an opportunity. We're going to say, you got to move anyway, we can give you some opportunity to go ahead and start making your move now. But I don't think, like you said, the stories that have been put out, and at least in Christianity, I have no idea how Islam feels about this because I don't know anybody personally in Islam right now. But I do know a lot of Christians, and they've decided all the ETs are demons.
Oh God.
And they aren't going to board craft. They simply aren't. So at this point in time, in terms of evacuating the planet, I think we just have to put everybody to sleep and do it. And some people are a little afraid of the sleep, but I'd like to tell people, I can't remember if we covered this last time or
We
not.
didn't.
But
We didn't.
yeah, we went into this photon belt, or our son did, in 1992. I think it was in August. And anybody that was living on the planet then slept for a week.
Oh,
And
and
you
they went
woke
into
up just
stasis.
fine. Yeah, yes, the planet was put into a stasis because the light is very bright for about 5 days. It can permanently blind people. The animals know what's going on, or they have some sense anyway, and they seek shelter. But the human beings were completely unprotected. To have emergency services and hospitals during these times, you've got to have an awful lot of people with welder's glasses. You have to wear welder's glasses during that. You can't even be if you can be in a basement, but it is so bright that you have to have the basement. You can't just have curtains.
Oh man.
If you have a basement, all the basement windows have to be completely blocked out.
Jeez.
And
Okay.
so, that would have been, since the planet, there are planets that are prepared for this and they do fine and go through it okay, but not this one, and
Not this
so,
one.
everybody slept during, for about a week, for a day or two before, and then for those 4 or 5 or 6 days, and then a couple days more,
Yeah.
and you probably all woke up stiff as a board because the body has laid there for that period, even though it's been affected. We've been through very short stasis periods since then, which is probably why our time's off a little bit from time to time. And then they have to kind of move the planet around to adjust for it. But we've been in stasis for a day or two at a time, quite a few times now, for them to just come in out of sight and do some vacuuming up of carbon dioxide and things like that.
So everything goes on
Do
pause.
some maintenance. Yeah.
Like everything's frozen, like still.
They don't have to pause the plants to do that, but they'll pause. Each animal has a different vibratory rate. If they're going to pause everything for a couple of days, they're going to pause the cattle that need milking and your pets that need feeding and that sort of thing. But the birds and stuff out there, maybe not.
Does the planet freeze? Like, does it stop turning, or everything keeps going?
No. Just the life forms are paused.
Just the life forms on the planet. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
And that was a week in 1992. How long is this stasis going to be?
5 to 15 years.
Okay, that's a long time for me to lie on my bed. Should I get some extra support, pillows or something?
For the planet, you won't be in your bed.
5 to 15 years is a long time.
Even the people that are going to return to the planet, there's a bunch of us that'll just be on craft and doing a lot of planning and stuff during that time.
Okay.
But the other people, they'll be moved to either underground areas where they'll need their pillows there, or they'll be moved off planet somewhere.
Okay,
and then, then the ones that are going to continue on the planet that are ready will be brought back at the end of that period and awaken. We probably will even awaken them sometime before we bring the planet out of stasis and do a little bit of teaching. Those things are still kind of up in the air.
So do we get a choice whether we get to stay or go, or we have any say, or it's completely out of our hands?
It's completely out of the hands of immature people. Those of us that are here that are from the very highest realms, that is in our hands. But the majority of souls are babysat until they grow up.
Okay,
and,
which can take some time in some cases.
You don't totally, you can't go to sixth grade when you can't write yet,
Right.
And so, at a soul level, according to what you know and how you behave. A large number of people will go in body to other similar planets as this and get a tremendous experience. A bunch of people are being moved to Venus. Venus is not what you're looking like up there. That's a craft. It's in our orbit. It's been modified to accept life. There's already Earth people there.
Whoa. Okay. All right.
Didn't talk about that last time in the interview.
now we've opened another can of worms. I'm not even going to bother trying to stuff the worms back in there. Okay, so in this particular solar system, Earth is not the only life-bearing planet. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so
also, and Venus sometimes is seen a tiny bit from stereo A and B, and that's where all the Nibiru stories come like crazy on the net.
Okay, better clarify some things. Wait a moment. Okay, hold the horse. Okay, you're just riding away on that horse. Let's stay back for us people here with our single brain cells, human beings like myself, trying to keep up. Now, which planets are life bearing on this system?
Mars partially, but Venus fully.
Venus fully and Mars partially. And okay, I'm gonna play the devil advocate here. Why don't we have this information? The NASA and the Soviets and the different space programs, they know this?
I'm quite sure that the Soviets do. I would assume NASA does. The Soviets have craft that are allowed to travel the whole solar system, so I assume they've gone around on the other side of the sun and seen it.
Okay.
But that's leaked out to Americans yet.
Okay. Because, obviously I'm aware of this information, but you're probably more knowledgeable about it than I am. So if this Mars planet is, because there's stories about Mars was once a planet filled with people, or filled with beings at least of a sorts, and
people.
People, right? Okay, and something happened to Mars, and it wasn't able to sustain life. There was some kind of war or some such. And
Yes, they played weather war with instruments similar to harp, and they overheated their atmosphere. They set it on fire, oxygen and nitrogen go boom, and they turned into crispy critters.
or Krispy Kremes, which I do enjoy. I'm sorry, that came out of nowhere.
No, but yes, they left no atmosphere. There went the life on the planet, and it's being called re-terraformed. They're redeveloping an atmosphere on it, and they do have some plants on it now. And some people can walk on the surface, but they may or may not need an oxygen tank. I don't think that, but they always show the atmosphere of Mars as being red, and I'm told it's blue.
Are there people there now?
Yes,
There are people there now. Are there
yeah,
people from
living under the
Earth?
surface.
Are there
Living under
people
the
from
surface.
Earth there?
Some from Earth, yes.
Like ones that have come over from Earth, traveled in spaceships, and landed there and settled there.
Well, taken there by ET spaceships because although the
Forcibly
Russians,
removed,
yeah,
or
no, voluntarily.
oh, okay. I didn't get that email. Why didn't they invite me? You have to be specially
You
selected for
know,
that.
I have no idea, but back in the early days of this, when I became public, I don't know how long you followed it, but we, we were working at the time with the gentleman who we named General Radetzky, and
Yes, Rajetsky.
yes,
Yes, I remember.
he's basically an incarnate ET, an archangel, and he is the highest ranking American military man, and for that reason, nobody ever heard of him. His name is not really Radetzky, but that was the choice used because there has to be some privacy involved in there. But he had basically has worked heavily on Mars with the mix of the ET and the Americans and Russians up there.
Okay, so what about okay? Well, I could go so much further into Mars, but I won't. Venus as well. You mentioned as well. Venus has got life forms on it.
Yeah, it's in our orbit, which is why we don't see it. It's always on the other side of the sun from us because the orbit keeps us equidistant apart.
Okay, so Venus is not where we assume Venus is in the
No,
sky,
no.
and that is a spaceship, i.e., it's a big round circular planet-like spaceship, or there's a spaceship that has a hologram that makes it look like a
Yeah,
planet.
yeah. It's showing a 3D movie, and that's all a hologram is. It's in 3D. It has width, height, depth, et cetera. And we do have this technology on the planet now. On CNN once they had Will I Am, the singer.
Yeah,
They did a hologram with him, and it looked like he was standing there and talking. He looked a little thin, kind of see through, but he was there. And then
I've seen that
it
as well. It's
did you see
incredible
that?
that technology.
Yeah. So that technology
It's
is there. It
9:45.
has very good use. All technology, it depends on what you use it for and how you use it. But it's showing a 3D movie up there, so that when people pull out their telescopes, they see what they think is Venus, and it's all computerized. The movie, so it.
But NASA and the other space agencies know that that's not real, or they don't know it.
I know that Russia would know.
Right.
I know what NASA knows because they don't have the technologies yet that Russia does. They're way behind. But I would think that there's been some sharing between scientists and others, and I would think that somebody in this country knows.
Okay, so I'm gonna go out a limb here and say we don't know. I haven't seen anything on the local news programs about this information you're telling us. I'm gonna say that if I didn't know any better, I'd say these claims are pretty outrageous. But I won't. I'm gonna ask you the question: if this is the case, then the truth of the matter is as you say, and the agencies of space, the governments of the world, they don't say anything about the truth of this situation. And the Celestials, who are the ones who we could basically say are on our side, as in, they're trying to help us, they don't show us the truth of the matter. What's going on? Why is this information kept from us? I know this is a huge question to answer, but Is there any way you can succinctly suggest why this information is not out there? Why
I
this
would
information?
say that they're all involved in the same sort of jerkhood that Lucifer was. I have no other explanation. They think they're going to keep this planet and they're going to beat the ETs from heaven off of here.
Yeah.
And it's their goal, and they don't care if they destroy the planet in the process as long as ET doesn't get it. That's kind of the attitude. So,
But you know what, Candace? If the governments and the people in power thought this way, and I can, from my research, I can definitely understand that they would. If you look at the people who are in power and the way they've enslaved their brothers and sisters of humanity, I think it's right up there in the realm of possibility that they don't want us to know about the true nature of our existence. By far, 100%, I can agree with that. But then you say also too that the Celestials are creating holograms of planets, so that, if the Celestials want us to see, they could just, pull off that hologram, and we'd notice that there's something
you wouldn't
going on.
believe how many times I've said, just turn the lights off. Somebody's going to notice.
So why do they go along with it? Why is that?
Because there will, I suppose, be terrible stories made up, and people have no understanding of God and how things are done. And those with telescopes that like to watch the stars, I assume they're going to freak out.
Yeah.
But if you want to, people are posting all the time that what's going on with Jupiter and Venus over there, because they're in the western sky together right now.
Right.
And they're sitting there saying, I thought it was an airplane coming to land, but it didn't come in and land. What is it?
Yeah.
So, if it looks like an airplane light coming into land and it doesn't come into land, it's not a helicopter.
I know exactly what you mean. I saw that last night. The Venus and Jupiter combo are just like headlights in the sky. And they're so low, and so obviously there's something strange about them. That's actually a really apt description. They look like planes that are coming down to land, and they don't actually come all the way.
Yeah, I live just straight west of Denver International Airport, and I'm right under an east-west runway, so I see planes coming in and leaving all the time.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it looks like, except it stays parked in the sky and sets eventually. And if you watch it, sometimes people have photographed Venus moving around. It will put on a demonstration, and then they put it on YouTube, and then you have this thing, everybody attacks it and, comes up with, oh, you were on your drugs, or you didn't hold the cameras still, or so on and so forth. They come up with all these reasons, how it can't be. But if it looks like a big sparkling light out there, it probably is a big sparkling light.
Right. Okay. All right. So, well, I guess that's as good an answer as any. But the only thing, I can, after what you've told me over the last hour and a half, it just does seem a shame if all this information you're giving us is correct, and I have no reason to imagine it's not. Simply because I don't know it's true doesn't mean it's not true. But it's a shame to imagine that we're not going to get a chance to validate this information. I think it would be amazing for people on this planet to have the opportunity, even if the truth hurts, and for a majority of people the truth can be a real pain sometimes. But when they have an opportunity to see an ET, or see a planet, or see a ship the size of a planet, I mean, it would just rock everybody's world. You talk about this planet being a schoolroom, a classroom to learn. There's a pretty big lesson right there. That would blow people's socks off. I mean, doesn't that sound like a good idea to you? Can't you talk to these celestial guys? Can't you put a word in?
Oh, I put it in all the time. And so do a lot of others, for that matter. But there's cosmic rules that have to be followed, and individual situations taken in, and people seeing more than I can sitting down here in front of my computer right now, that can see further, that know more, and what they need to accomplish. That we're basically stuck with that. But I'd like to suggest something. 200 or 300 years ago, when none of us were walking the planet that we remember, although some of us were.
Yeah.
But forget the reincarnation part. But, just assume that nobody walking the planet right now was here in the same bodies 300 years ago, no matter what you believe.
Right.
People back then knew there were craft. It's been buried that well.
Oh, yeah?
You can find it a lot in paintings by all those famous painters during the time of the Renaissance, etc.
I've
They have
seen some of
pictures of,
those.
yeah, there's pictures of craft
But
in
you
a
see
lot.
as well, ancient Babylonian graphs and the Egyptian, strange photos or pictures. You look at them and you say, that's odd. This guy's sitting in some kind of contraption shooting across the sky what looks like some kind of propulsion jet system out the back, and you say, what the heck were these, guys smoking? Do they have some kind of ancient form of weed or something? But either that or these guys saw something that looked like people in the sky in some kind of machine.
Oh yeah, it was known. It was known back in the times that Jesus was here. He was observed boarding craft. They observed the craft then, and they've since been turned into stars of Bethlehem and heaven only knows what else in the Bible.
Oh
And
man.
yeah, the Bible in the late 1800s, when the elite controllers of the planet were really aware of what was going to be happening, they began putting people out there that in Christianity, at any rate, I don't know what was done in the others, but for Christians, they started changing the wordings in the Bible. They put out people in the late 1800s that created the rapture.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's so popular now. And then on into the early 1900s, there were further remodeled Christianity to include that Israel is God's chosen people and must be protected, and they changed the Bible all around.
Yeah.
And I have run into somebody on the net recently that's been buying Bibles over the years, the King James versions,
Uh-huh.
and he finds all sorts of changes from one edition to the next.
Is there anywhere we can find a Bible that's accurate? Is there any versions that are more or kind of accurate,
I've
or is...
taken King James version and I've compared it to the supposed versions from 100 years ago or whatever that they have up on the web,
Yeah.
and there's no difference, which to me tells me that they've been making those match our current versions.
Yeah. Well, I guess they
There
could
are
do
some
that.
people that picked them up and they are comparing the changes in the wording. It can be very subtle changes, but it changes the whole
Context.
meat of it, the whole context of
Yeah.
it. And
Can
so
I?
it's
Yeah, yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I think I was just going to say that prior to the late 1800s, that Christianity was unaware of the rapture.
Yeah, it sounds
It
like it,
was
and that's
made to
probably a good
order
thing.
story. Yeah, it's a made to order
Can
story.
I just confirm then again? I'm going to go back. We're running out of time. We're coming close to the end of the allotment we have here. But I just wanted to go back, if I can, to the part about cosmic policy on intervention, because that's a question that I was thinking in the back of my head. You're telling me this stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, if there is a celestial hierarchy, beings of such superior wisdom, technology, advancement, that they know what needs to be done, they know the truth of the situation. I mean, the fact that they haven't actually physically, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I don't, well, I'm not sure, I guess, but I would imagine, strongly suggest that these guys could come in and just, do what they do with their pause button or whatever, and just take the people away, or make everything right, or do whatever they need to do. And yet they don't. They don't intervene, they don't interfere, they allow whatever goes on to go on. And this is one aspect when people, I think, speak about, well, why does God let that happen? Why does let people starve, or let children get killed, or wars take place in these things? I would imagine that the celestial hierarchy, who are in the employ of God, whatever we know as the prime creator, they don't intervene. Why don't they intervene? There's some kind of policy of
They can't
non-intervention.
intervene, but there are policies and rules. They can't just come in and intervene because man has to define his course. And if there's too much intervention, that course doesn't get properly defined. The biggest rule on it is between various similar planets that have space travel. They are not allowed, some planetary people from Orion are not supposed to come shooting guns at us.
Right.
And this actually has happened. And there had to be some new directives made because the warring between planets was getting a little bit on the excessive side. Not everywhere in the creation, but certain pockets, which is one of the reasons Earth is a mess. I'll just revert back there briefly, is that they took a lot of problems and they threw it all into the same bucket called Earth to sort them out. And some of those the readers would not understand, but that is one of the reasons it's tough here, is that there's been a number of galactic problems, and they've been sorted and confined to this Earth so that they can
What is
be.
this, a prison planet?
Oh yes, absolutely.
This is a prison planet.
This is a prison ward. Yes, you learned about prison wards in Star Wars too.
Yeah.
Star
Okay.
Trek. Yes, it's prison ward.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
am
but
I?
there's many
I don't
problems.
feel like a criminal. I mean, so is everybody here, a
No,
criminal of
some
some
of us are volunteers.
kind?
But
Okay.
some of them that came well before I did, or before 2,000 years ago, agreed that until there was, Michael of Nebadon coming as Jesus, that was an intervention. But interventions are carried out in specific ways, and it very, depending on the nature, the celestial hierarchy, which is something we should go into next time. I could explain it a little bit more detail, though this has to be approved even higher than the level of our own universe. There are people above those who can put a lid on something or say go ahead, and those people are in the positions of gods in that essence. There's not just a god that does all of this, but they are gods in and of their own right in terms of superior managers.
Yeah.
And so these are made at very high levels. But the no intervention, that big thing, is really people from Orion aren't supposed to come over here and blow up Earth,
Right.
or enslave us or take us over. And that was becoming a moderate problem in this sector that had to be contained. And they did make, some new rules, since people were violating the common sense ones of.
So we're basically allowed to go on our merry way unless we violate these terms of non-intervention. Is that right?
No, let's save that for the hierarchy discussion for another
Okay,
interview.
sure. Okay, so
And I'll take some notes and try to explain that a little bit clearer.
Okay.
I think we'll end up confusing people tonight.
all right, no problem. Okay, well, we'll leave that one alone then. The only thing I was going to mention as well, like I said, we're down to maybe another 5 minutes. I just wanted to come back to this idea of the correcting time you've been mentioning, and the fact that we're going through these changes, and there will come a point where this stasis event, this pause will happen, and then they'll go through and make changes, and then people will literally be sorted into people who stay with the planet, people who go to other planets or other teaching worlds or other mansion worlds to continue their journey. Is there anything you can give our listeners, Candace? Is there an event, a moment, an understanding? Is there something that people will know that we're about to hit that next level? Is there a moment where people will understand, oh, okay, we're about to go into stasis. Oh, okay, there's something. Are they going to give us something, or are they just going to click that switch and we're going to go to stasis and we wouldn't even know what hit us? Do we get a warning?
They'll click the switch, but if we get a couple of weeks on the air, we will give some explanation, but I don't think that we're going to say it's going to happen in 24 hours and then start the countdown, 23 hours and 59 minutes, etc.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate that.
No.
But I think that will be a surprise. But I'm hoping that, because some people are going to go in body to other planets that are welcoming them with open arms.
One of my friends is online.
We'd sure like them to know, because if they wake up, suddenly on a craft, that's going to be a frightening experience. So we're still hoping to provide something that would make it less frightening at the time. But if we can't do that, all these people here, there's, the best of sociologists and psychologists and people that deal with trauma, et cetera. And some people can be kind of kept in a coma or in stasis for a period of time. Why they handle groups of people more ready or moving sooner to other places or whatever. It can all be sorted out, and there's a lot of specialists here to deal with the traumatic portions of it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would imagine it's going to be pretty traumatic for a lot of people. I have to tell you,
Yeah,
because
you aren't just going to be picked up and parachuted onto a strange planet and
yeah.
left there.
Good luck. See you later. Here's your
See you later. No,
pack
no.
lunch.
This is well organized, and the support personnel here are huge, and they have support personnel way beyond what we've produced on this world in terms of support personnel.
And you
And
mentioned
what
these announcements. You mentioned it may happen, it may not happen. I mean, I think announcements would be a great idea. I think this is just my opinion, but some kind of this is the end of this particular time, beginning of another. These are the people who are going to come to help, and this is what we're going to do. I think that would be a great idea. What is that? I mean, I guess you couldn't really explain all the variables on what that's dependent on, but at this stage, you're saying it's not really likely. You know,
Yeah,
may,
it grows. The tension within the planet is huge. They've delayed all sorts of physical changes that have been necessary, and there's going to be at some point that this has to be done, or there would be risk of the planet exploding, which is
okay.
not our desired outcome. We don't want to be a new asteroid belt.
No, thank you.
So, we've gone to too much effort here, and that would end the correcting kind.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we have to leave it in their hands, and we hope to get some time, but if we don't, we don't.
So there's just a bunch of variables that they're kind of waiting on, and that
Yeah.
and everything really is dependent on how those variables turn out. Is that right?
Yeah. Just like your variables in your own life and how things turn out. The people tend to think that heaven is this beautiful, blissful place with no problems, and it's full of problems. I mean,
Great.
there is always problems, and what you will do is you grow your soul knowledge, is get better at solving those, and
Oh,
eventually
geez.
people from Earth will be on teams and councils themselves, determining these things as they gain more
Well,
experience.
Candace, I think you're disappointing a lot of people, because I think a lot of people are looking forward to getting off this rock and entering bliss and not having to deal with the crap that they're dealing with right now. But you're telling me there's crap everywhere. You just it
Yeah,
depends on how you can deal with it.
there's crap everywhere.
Oh gosh.
And
Okay.
people in these highest realms have to deal with the crap in the lower realms. It's just the way it is,
Oh
and
jeez.
that's the nature of mind and the creation. And there is certainly more joy. There's a great deal of things to learn and grow into, but there's still arguments, and there's still councils, and there's still this, that, and the other, and the creation. It grows constantly. It's not ever supposed to stop growing. So if it does, I
Yeah.
think there's always going to be a level of problems that you have in any corporate structure. Even look at
Yeah.
these as corporations if you want. They're not fighting with each other over money, and some of those things corporations do, but look at these management teams as corporations, if that would help people get a better viewpoint, and you have board meetings and you solve the corporation's problems, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so look at it kind of like that. As above, so below is the saying.
They say that, don't they? As above, so below.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot of similarities in at least the basic structures of what we call government and what we call law, courts of law. And, it's interesting how there's a lot of similarity there. Maybe not in the cretins that are running the show down here. I'm hoping it's not like that above, and I'm sure it's not. Otherwise, it just wouldn't function. But, yeah, it's fascinating to see the similarities there. Really fascinating. Now, Candace, I'm thinking we might just draw this to a close at this stage. We have gone way beyond where I thought we'd go tonight, as always, which is fantastic. It's all fascinating material, and maybe we can do this again. You might be up for another run.
Well, I already made that suggestion that if we want to go into hierarchy and other things, I would have to do that.
We were going into hierarchy. Okay, all right. Well, fine. Well, we're going to have to do another one.
I need to make a list of myself about how I'd want to present that, so it's more organized and not just flying off the top of my head.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's my bag of tricks. I like to fly around everywhere. Now,
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you again very much for being with us on the Source Radio Fremantle 107.9 FM. Candace Fries, thank you so much. Any parting words, or you're going to go get a cup of coffee now?
Oh, not a cup of coffee. It's my bedtime.
Oh, that's right. It's so late there
Anything but a
already.
cup of coffee.
Oh, well,
I'm
thank you
probably
again.
working tonight for all I know. Why I sleep too, I don't know.
Oh
I
my
do.
gosh. Okay, well, Candace Fries, thank
Oh,
you so much for being with us again, and I'm very much looking forward to the next time. So have a great night, and we'll see you again soon.
all right. Good night, all, and we'll see where we can take this next time. Be sure to write him some questions.
Absolutely, and I'll
So,
forward that information on the rest of the audio. So
okay.
thank you very much, Candace, and good night, everyone. Thanks for listening
Yeah.
to the second pre-recorded interview here on the Source Radio Fremantle 107.9 with Candace Fries.